Okay, good morning, everybody. Bruchim Abayim, welcome. If you want the contrast of the Basi Legani, it's here on the table. Let me just make sure everything is working. Okay, beautiful. Good morning. Okay, in the contrast, we began a few classes on the Maimer of Basi Legani, Tavshin Chav Daled. Maimer of the Rebbe, of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, said Motzei Shabbos Beshalach Yud Aleph Shvat Tavshin Chav Daled, 1964. We're up to page Chav Beis in this contrast. The Sifis If Hey, Perik Hey, Hinen is Bar Lael. Class is dedicated by Reb Shimshon and Rivki Vershansky, Leila Nishmas, in loving memory of Reb Zalman Yehuda, Reb Shalom Yeshaya Deitch, Zechreinu Levracha. Thank you very, very much for your partnership and friendship. And of course, dedicated to our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael and the whole world, especially all those in captivity and all of the soldiers on the front lines. Hashem Yishmor Tzeisam Avaya Me'atav Ad Olam. Amen. Okay, so now we continue. Sifhei. V'hinei nizboyer la'el. We explained earlier, Sham shacha lamata mata, kailelas gam ha'inyanim shem lamata me'aklipis, tahinu misha oived al ratzon habayra. It's a very organized structure here. So we explained that when it says in the Zohar, the famous expression that Oidein Soif extends lamata mata adin tachlis, your favorite line. Oidein Soif extends lamata mata, below, until ein tachlis. That itself includes many different dimensions, many different aspects. The first is that the Oidein Soif is present even in the lowest world, which we call Olam HaSiyah. This world, the physical, material world. And that means not just that Hashem is everywhere. That's not the chiddush of Oidein Sof Lamata Adin Tachlis. That could say Oidein is Ein Sof. The chiddush is, as we explained in the earlier shiurim, that it's manifested within the definition, within the geder, within the identity of Olam HaSiyah. And that's what he explained at length, the concept of Va'ata Mechaya Es Kulam, which we discussed in the last two classes. Va'ata Mechaya Es Kulam. That the chayas, the chiyus, the identity, the differentiation, the character of every single nivra is essentially an expression of Oidein Sof. The way it's expressed through Eisius, Aleph, Taf, Hey, Aleph through Taf, and the Hey, the five, which are the five sources of all vocalization, known as Hey Mitzay Sapeh. So that's Va'ata is Mechaya Es Kulam. So the individuation of every nivra is a manifestation of Oidein Sof. That's the Pshat Lamata Adin Tachlis. It's connected to the geder, to the definition, to the differentiation, to the structure, to the chemistry, to the unique identity of every single nivra, not just in the higher worlds, in the lowest worlds as well. And that's what it says, Va'ata Mechaya Es Kulam. The chiyus, the life force, the functionality of every single nivra is not just a demonstration of the Boida, of the Creator, but a manifestation of the Creator. First of all, it's a demonstration, because you could see the imprint of the designer everywhere you go, and in every single detail, and in every nuance. There's nothing you look at even in this physical world, that doesn't have the imprint of the designer, the infinite designer, the intelligent designer, the conscious, the deliberate designer, literally in every nekuda, unless somebody dafka wants to be stubborn and deny it, which needs a lot of emunah, as I said, needs a lot of faith. From there, you can also come to the va'ata mahava eskula, to the idea, to the truth, that the hishavos itself, the creation itself, me'ayin liyesh, didn't happen on its own, but rather, ein hayesh oises atzmai, it was created. So it points to the fact that there's a designer. But not only that, the design itself is a manifestation of the designer. Va'ata mechaya eskula. So the Orein Seif is lamata adein tachlis, means that the world in all of its details bespeaks it, manifests it, embodies it. It's a derivative, it's a manifestation of the Ein Seif. That's one nekud in lamata adein tachlis. But then he said, what about Klippa? You have Olam Hazeh, fine, it's a beautiful world, an amazing world. Va'ata mechaya eskula, ma'ata sisas hashamayim, shmei hashamayim, ha'aretz, chol asher Allah, hayamim. Like we say right before, va'ata mechaya eskula. We say it every morning in davening by Vayivarech David. From the Psukim, it's all from Nehemiah. In the Navi, in the Sefer Nehemiah, Ezra and Nehemiah, over there you have all these Psukim. So he says, well, it goes a step further. And that is, even Lamata Adein Tachlis, when you talk about Klippa means shells and husks, that their function is to eclipse, to cover up. Their function is the opposite. Their function is not just a neutral, beautiful world, but their function is, it's called Klippa, so you could think over there, it's not Orein Seif Lamata Adein Tachlis. So he said that too. And when you talk about that, you're not only talking about Klippa that's a protector for the pri. Klippa is a shemel the pri. So it's protecting the fruit. It's not the fruit, but it's protecting it. It's a banana peel is there for the banana. It's also a Klippa. It's covering the banana, but it's there for the banana. But even a Klippa that says, I am the banana. There's no banana. I am the banana. Like the Zohar gives the famous mashal, right? The mashal of the Zaina, the harlot, the promiscuous woman who was hired by the king to entice the prince in order to flex his muscles, to bring out his character, to be able to make him ready for the position. He needs to really be a man, so to speak, a man who can withstand temptation and challenge. So it looks like she's an enemy of the king. Really, she's serving a purpose. She's not deviating from the purpose. She's as loyal to the king as his closest minister, even though she can't say it, it's a secret. The Große Klippe is nicht as a Klippe if you know what it's really about. The only one who thinks she's serious is the prince, nobody else does. And the moment he withstands it, she can reveal her true colors and say, oh, it was a joke, it was just, it was just, it was a, yeah. So on this Nekuda, he brought the whole union of Ata Mechayes Kulam. Kulam means everything, not only Rubika Kulai. And the Gemara that says Hashem is Zonim Afarnes Mekainir Deimim Vat Kene Beitzim. Right, from the horns of the greatest wild ox till the eggs of the lice, which not only means physically from the greatest to the smallest, but also spiritually. Even that's small in the sense that godliness is small there, it's not revealed there, it's not manifested at all. That's called Beitzei Kinim, and he explained at length what Kinim is, right? Kinui, and the concept of Elikim, and Kufchav. Kinim is Begamatria Kufchav, to 120 configurations of Elikim, and the Maharik, who says what a Kinui is when it comes to a get. Negat Shma Avachme, as the Gemara says, Einoid Mulvadi Afilu Kshafim. So that brings out, that's also Vata Mechayaskul. So now he goes to the next step. That this Orein Seif Lamata Adein Tachlis goes even in Yonam Shem Lamata Ma Klippus. That which is lower than Klippus. What could be lower than Klippus? The only one that can be lower than Klippus is the one that's most similar to Hashem. Everything else is part of a system. It's part of a program. It doesn't deviate from the program. It follows the code. It follows the code. Just like the lion follows his code and the cat follows its code. The tiger and the salmon follow their code. And every tree follows its code. Nobody deviates. And even the deviation, if they do, it's part of the code. Right? Kan Sarech Lifkos. Now you have to deviate. Now that's also part of the code. That's also part of the program. The only one, the Rambam says this in Hilchos Tshuva, who has the freedom to really deviate from the code is the one who reflects the Creator. So it's like the Creator, so to speak, up there, and the Creator down here. Those are the two that can rewrite the code, can rewrite the program. That's the koyach ha'adam, that's the koyach of a person. And that's in that sense, even Klippa, right, is following the program. The human being, that's what he's saying, that's already lamata. The human being can choose choose to actually deviate from the plan, deviate. And I should just add, this means that Bechira is always commensurate with how much awareness you have. In other words, it's true in the positive, it's true in the negative. It's important to emphasize this because people feel so much guilty. Somebody who certain things happen to them and their brain gets rewired, they have very, very little Bechira. They may have Bechira whether to eat an orange or an apple, that's where they're Bechira. And even that they probably don't have Bechira. Because sometimes when a person becomes reprogrammed, and I'm literally like a squirrel, I'm responding to things, I'm not choosing things. And it's important to understand that because this is a condition that a person has. And then they blame themselves for all of their choices. Most of their choices were sometimes so compulsive, so instinctive, because to have bchira, you have to feel like a person. Ani amarti elikim atem uvnei elyon kulchem. If you're elikim atem, b'sta mensch. You have a tzuras Adam. Adam is Adam elyon. Adam is Adama, earth. But the Shalosh says, Rabbi YY says, Adam is Adam elyon. Adam from the word doim. You're a reflection of heaven. If you're a reflection of the program designer, yeah, now you can write some new code. If not, I'm instinct. What's the difference between me and a squirrel? Mamish like a squirrel. The squirrel's trying to survive. I'm just trying to survive. You put a rat in a cage, right? And it's lonely. Okay, and there's two. They did these experiments. There's two containers, right? One container has water, and the other one has water with cocaine inside. So the rat goes to the second one. Why? Because the rat is looking for some stimulation. The point is that when a person is so limited and defined by their limitations, very often much of their decisions are simply compulsive as a way to survive. The more a person learns about their power and their dignity, the more they learn that they are not their illness, they are not their anger, they are not their pain, they're observing it, the more bchira you have. It's important to understand. Viktor Frankl, who was a very famous Jew, an Auschwitz survivor, I think once said something of the nature that between stimuli and reaction, there is a moment of pause. There's a millisecond of a break. And in that millisecond, that's where all human freedom lives. Meaning between stimuli, something comes my way, right? Something comes into my system. You said something to me. And I react. I react emotionally, I react verbally. Between the stimuli, the coming in and the going out, there's a millisecond, mashu of a rega. Says that's where all bchira lives. Can you hold on to that pause? Can you hold on to that pause? That's the bchina of Shabbos, right? The pause. Can you hold on to that pause and say, oh wow, look at this reaction? If there's somebody that looking at the reaction, that person can say, you know what? Maybe it's time to react differently. No, you can't react differently. You're going to die if you react differently. This person is a tiger. This person wants to maul you right now. I know, I feel that, but maybe I could react differently. Maybe I just think he's a tiger. But that's not easy. When that happens, everybody understands what I'm talking about, or it's Alat Tzadikim in the room. Anybody who deals with this knows. But that second is everything. So Gevaldik word from the Moirei Nayim, Reb Nachum of Chernobyl, was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. So he has a sefer, everybody knows, Moirei Nayim. So this week, Parshas Boy, or last week, Parshas Veda, these weeks of Yitzis Mitzrayim, he asked the famous question of the Rambam. Everybody has the Rambam, the Ramban, the Sephar, most of the Rishonim asked the question, how could you take away somebody's bchira? Hashem tells Moshe, Ani achazakis loiv parei, right? I'm going to make sure that parei doesn't send it. So it's great, right? You take away somebody's choice, and then you punish him. That's wonderful. And what's the lesson of it? What are you trying to teach us? Like you want to punish him, punish him. Don't. I'm going to make you do it. Really, I did it because I programmed you, and then I punish you, and I'm the tzaddik and you're the rasha. I mean, come on. Like you create a lioness. She has to eat. She has to feed her cub. So she goes and attacks a gazelle, and she molds the gazelle and feeds it to her cub, and then you call her a rasha. Write a different program, right? Turn her into a puppy, not into a lioness. Turn her into an elephant, and she'll eat grass. Was willst du? It's not fair. It's very fast, but there's a tiny pause. That pause is the pause of Elikus. That pause is the pause of Shabbos. The more you're sensitive to the pause, the more you see it. Freedom is a muscle. You have to use it. If not, you lose it. It rhymes. Use it or lose it. Freedom is a muscle like any other muscle. If you don't use a muscle for 10 years, it's not usable anymore. If you use it every day and you work it out, it becomes a power. You can become a powerhouse. Freedom is a muscle. You use it, it gets more powerful. You don't use it, I lose it. It's very important in life. Bechira is a muscle, it's a gift. In fact, the Rambam says that this is where the person is godlike. Hein ha'adam haya ka'achad mimenu. Hashem says about Adam, and the Rambam explains in Hilchos Tshuva in Perek Hey. Hein ha'adam haya ka'achad mimenu. The koyach ha'bechira is the space where man reflects Hashem, where the human being reflects Hashem. That's why it's such a gift. That's why he doesn't take it away. To take away bechira from people, sometimes you feel like you wish you took it away, right? It would be nice. Just program them. That would be nice. Nobody has tightness to cockroaches. Nobody has tightness to mice until they come into your basement. Nobody has tightness to trees. To exercise bechira, you're challenged, yeah. That's this world. Yeah. This world is a school of challenge. And the moment you feel like you have no challenges, a new one comes that you didn't expect. Talmidei Chachamim, the Gemara says in Brachas, Talmidei Chachamim ein lehem menucha, loy ba'olam hazeh v'loy ba'olam haba. Why? Just because they're Talmidei Chachamim? No, because they're in touch, because they're alive. They're alive, so they don't die. They don't die in the process. So this is the famous question. So different Yeshayim give different answers. Very geschmack answers. The Rambam has, the Ramban has, the Sefer. There's a lot of different answers given.
Why are we looking for menuchas?
Huh?
Why are we looking for menuchas?
I don't know the word is we're looking for menuchas hanefesh. We're looking for truth. We're looking for dveikus. And when there's real dveikus, there's menuchas hanefesh. Because menuchas hanefesh doesn't mean I have no challenge to face. It means I face my challenge with equilibrium, with purpose, with serenity. There's a clarity there. I can face it without flinching. That's real menuchas hanefesh.
I think menuchas hanefesh means no resistance. But in order to exercise it,
no resistance. I'm not busy trying to rewrite my reality. If I would have had another family and I would have been married to another person, I would have grown up in a different home and I would have had a different bin. I would have had different color eyes and I would be tall and short and rich and poor. I'm busy living somebody else's life vicariously, and then maybe I would be miserable a little less. Yeah, that's the myonis. So the Moira Naim says that it's a very, very deep stickle. Very, very deep. But one vart I want to bring out from there, at least the way I understood it is, he's saying it's a much deeper story. It's not, I want to punish Parai, and I need a good excuse, so we'll make this trick, and then we'll kill him, why not? He's saying no. He's actually describing to Moshe the whole inyan of Galus Mitzrayim. It's not a detail in the story. This is Galus Mitzrayim. Moshe can ask a question. Why should the Jews leave Mitzrayim? What's a lot of Jews didn't want to leave, right? Many of them stayed. Many of them wanted to go back. He's explaining to them what Mitzrayim looks like. Parai is the poster boy for Mitzrayim. Parai is the king. In other words, he's the zeitgeist of Mitzrayim. The Rambam says Hamelech is Leiv Kahal Yisrael. The king is the heart of the nation. Parai is the heart of Mitzrayim. You want to understand what Mitzrayim is? Look at Parai. What's the definition of Mitzrayim? The definition of Mitzrayim is you don't have bechira. That's the definition. The definition of Mitzrayim is you don't have choices in life. Mitzrayim from the word Meitzar Gvul. Meitzar. I'm confined in a very, very tiny little orbit. Yeah, And a person has no choice. You could see the destruction happening. One makkah, another makkah, another makkah. It's irrelevant. Why? Not because you don't see it. Your mind also will tell you. But essentially, I have no choice. If you wanted a simple contemporary English of 2024, it's called a person living active trauma, where all my responses are simply based on survival. There's absolutely no consciousness, and it's so bad that I don't even know that. If I know it, it's already 50% of Geula. I don't even know it. In other words, if you come to me and say, maybe you need help, you become the enemy. You become the enemy because anything that's getting close to poking a hole and puncturing the gullus that was created, you become the enemy. If you come to me, you give me a compliment, then you're good. You're my best friend. And the brain does it so well because it protects anything of getting close that might challenge the framework that I created in order to survive. And everything is a response to that. And a person could live their entire life in this space. So Hashem is telling Moshe, this is what it looks like to live in Mitzrayim. This is what it looks like. This is the definition. The whole inyan of Bechira only begins when there's das. Because Hashem used to say, Galus is das and Geula is das. Das. Das means real awareness, visceral awareness. So Ani Amarti Elikim Atem Uvnei Eli Kulchem. Yeah. Now there's actually a concept called Bechira. And by the way, the more somebody becomes aware of their koyach habchira, the more automatically they become freed of most of the Yetzer Haras. Because much of the Yetzer Hara essentially is this inyan of parai. It's keeping a person trapped in this place where my choices are so limited. So the more das there is, the more choice there is, the more you see, wow, so this is who I am. So if this is who I am, I actually don't need all this. Somebody once wrote me an interesting email. The person said he listens to a lot of classes. And he said that somebody came to him with a taina against a lot of the shiurim, and that is, till this person started to listen to shiurim, he believed that there's a Yetzer Hara. And suddenly there's no Yetzer Hara anymore. It's this event, it's that event, you're a good person. Used to be, no, you have a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is bad and evil. The Yetzer Hara is prompting you to do all this. And suddenly everything changed. There's no Yetzer Hara anymore. Vakarta, Yesodus Hadas, Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara, Schar, Einer. What is this? The emes is the exact opposite. It's actually the ability to actually deal with the Yetzer Hara. In his case, I'll just give you an example of his particular case. This particular case, it's a younger man, a koila younger man. And a fine younger man sits and learns all day. Not only sits and learns, gives chaburas, teaches, is a magachir, and is a rosh chabur, in other words, very respected, and a Talmud Chacham, and he's doing it for many years. He's not the first year in koila. He's learning in koila for decades, and he's a very respected person. And he's invited to give speeches, invited to give shiurim. But sadly, and I'm not going to say all the details because it's important to have a lashon nekiyah, but sadly, in his private life, he has a horrible addiction. Everybody can imagine what type of addiction that undermines every last boundary of tznius and edelkeit and marriage and family and loyalty. Horrible addiction. Nobody knows about it. One person knows about it besides him. Now imagine how he feels about himself. Sitting and learning all day, not only learning, teaching, but he knows that the time he has for himself and when he's with himself, with a computer, whatever it is, a phone, it's a whole different life. So he feels like the greatest monster, liar, manipulator, deceiver in the world, and everybody understands why. Because he's an edel person. He's not a mushchis. He has a conscience. So he says, basically, I'm lying to the whole world. He says, and at this point, what am I supposed to do? He's soon marrying off kids, and it's considered, top family in this particular community. So this person, and he says, I try, and I learned every safe in the world 100 times. I learned Musa and I learned Chassidus, and he did this and he fasted. He did every zgula, every zgula in the world. Yesterday was the yahrzeit of the Baba Sali. So every zgula in the world he did. And he learned this, he told me all this Svarim, he learned Alts. Loi noga v'loi paga. So what's his conclusion? His conclusion is that he has a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is as big as Oig Melech HaBashan, maybe bigger, Ashmedai, right? And all of his learning, it's worthless. At the moment he hits this Yetzer Hara, it's... And then, Ploini Almoini, someone suggested in one of the shiurim, I'm not going to tell you who, you'll figure out, that maybe your Yetzer Hara is not so big. Maybe Yetzer Hara is not so big. Maybe something happened to you as a child, which was not your fault. Maybe. And it really played with the core of your dignity. It played with the core of your personality. And that means it's not even you. It may be, like we learned in the Maimon from Derech Mitzvah Sechi, remember the neshamas that struggle. Maybe it's the curse, the toxicity, the poison of someone else who has his own stuff. And we're not going to get into that person's stuff. The mazik that's now in you, and his voice became your voice. His darkness became your darkness, and you're responding and you don't even know it. Because you were 4 years old, you were 6 years old, you were 9 years old, maybe you were 2 years old. Maybe. And lo and behold, kachava, and not by a stranger, but by somebody in his family himself. Not only somebody, but the person who's supposed to protect a child more than anybody else in the world. And when that happens, it's not just you're hurt. You're hurt by the one who's supposed to be your greatest protector. That means you're telling yourself as a 4-year-old, I must be the Meshugana. Because your father is the greatest person in your life. So who's the Meshugana? You. So not only are you a Rasha Merusha, but you're a Meshugana also because you can even be Chaysh with your father. What a horrible person you are. And then in school, what do you hear every day? Kabbadas Avicha V'Semech is one of the Aseret Sadibras. Now you know in your heart of hearts that your father Nebuch is a sick man. But it happens sometimes. But in your mind, the whole world and your whole culture and your whole environment tells you, Chas v'Shalom. And befrat that your father is honored at every dinner. And he usually gets shishi and sometimes shlishi and sometimes mafter also. Of course, Hag Beglila Psiche Kol Nidei Ila. And he's considered Torah Gdula B'Makam Echad. And everybody who meets you says, wow, you have such a father, what a lucky kid you are. Your father is the Tzaddik Hadar because he's responsible for Bikkur Chayla, Machnasas Orchim, Levayas. He created Hatzalah. He made all the moizdas, and he already finished Shas the 7th time. So who's the crazy person in this world? Ich bin der Meshugana. I'm not talking about any I'm just trying to bring out the... So this 4-year-old, what does he have left? He has left his own crazy brain that's making up a horrible story about a tzaddik hadar. And what's the real truth? The real truth is that this kid is as innocent as they get. He's the purest soul. So for the first time in his life, what did he learn? He learned that it's actually not even him. Wow. Suddenly he's not the monster anymore. This whole addiction is someone else's darkness that he's dealing with, and ultimately it's part of his mission, because that's going to make him the person he's supposed to become. But suddenly you realize it's nothing even to do with you. You don't even want it. Your poor brain has been wired to go to these addictions in order to deal with the horrific pain that you've been dealing with. And there's a reason the brain wires itself into these types of addictions. That's not their place now. But there's a lot of different reasons, but it's all a form of survival. So suddenly when you identify what's really going on, you suddenly see that this big monstrous Yetzer Hara, it's not your essence. It's in you, it's not you. And somehow you could see, wow. It's actually, I wasn't born with it. So there's less guilt, there's less shame, and the key is, there's freedom. It's not me. He thought it was him. So I said, look, when you understand this shayrish, what happens? For the first time, you're bigger than your Yetzer Hara, you're stronger than your Yetzer Hara. That's what people, you're taking away the Yetzer Hara. You allow people to realize that this huge Yetzer Hara is a little tiny insignificant creature that's wreaking havoc because you decided that he has all the power. That's how I understand what the Moira and Ayim is saying. Moshe, Hashem is telling Moshe, this is what Yitzias Mitzrayim means. Yitzias Mitzrayim means stop living in that tiny little Meitzer Gvul where you absolutely have no choices. This guy had choices as much as a monkey has a choice. When you put in front of it a Gewaldike peanut, how much choice does the monkey have? I want to know. It's like putting a piece of food in front of a Jew, Lahavdil Mitzvah Yom Kippur, right? And the Ne'ilah finished 3 hours late because whatever. And you put a cup of water. How much bchira? So Rabbi YY Jacobson, after Ne'ilah, he went to a house. He said he needs a Masechta Sukkah, and he stayed up the night to learn Masechta Sukkah. But Rabbi YY Jacobson also said he doesn't know why it says in Chumash that you have to fast in Yom Kippur, and why the Nevi'ah made a tainus on Tisha B'Av. He says he doesn't understand. Yom Kippur, who wants to eat? And Tisha B'Av, who could eat? So he doesn't know why you need a mitzvah not to eat Yom Kippur. Who wants to eat on Yom Kippur? Mr. Shugana, where are you going to go eat? And Tisha B'Av, who could eat Tisha B'Av? So what do you have to tell me not to eat? Okay, so that person can also stay up home. Do I have bchira not to eat after Yom Kippur? Yeah, you have bchira. But you understand that how much bchira did this koilel younger man have? I just want to know. So he looks at himself evil. He's not evil, he's Yetzer Hara. Yeah, there's evil inside, it don't do with him. And today he's a liberated person. Today, his Yetzer Hara doesn't overpower. It still exists. It's not transformed. It'll be transformed one day. But there's already a differentiation between me, Ani Amarti Elokim Atem, Uvnei Elyon Kolchem. Ochein Ka'achad Adam Temusan. A person turns himself into a shmata that just, dies and rots away with everything else. My vision of you is you're a bnei elyon. You turn yourself into a random creature that lives and dies and is just trying to survive. But really, you're rooted in the source of creation. You're rooted in this boire, and b'meila there's an inyan of bchira. So, in a paradoxical way, a person can fall so low only because they come from such a high place. So I could make a choice. And when a person makes a choice, then they could be lamata meha-klippa. Why? Because the klippa doesn't deviate. And the person can actually rewrite things. So this is already a lower level of lamata adin tachlis. On this we say, Oirein Soif is here also. Oirein Soif is here also. Everyone is typhus, the Indian. A
person always has bechira. He differentiates the chilik by na holiness, the shake, but it doesn't take away the last part of the bechira. It doesn't say it's like a monkey to a peanut or a Jew, but not saying kibbutz. The question is, did we go too far?
In Pedek Lamed, the person who's internalizing Tanya has bchira. You know why? Because the whole yesod of Tanya is that you have a nefesh elikis, that's a chelik elikam imal, mamish. And if you can experience that, if that can be your best friend, you have bchira. Because all the abuse can't happen in the chelik elikam imal, mamish. Nobody can abuse Hashem. Nobody can abuse the chelik elikam imal. But that younger man did not know he has a chelik elikam imal. He knew it in Tanya. He read Tanya 1,000 times, not 1,000. He told me he read Tanya many times, but it was irrelevant. It says in Tanya, the Baal Tanya believes I have a chelik elikam imal. I like you, fine, you're good. Believing you have a chelik elikam imal mamish doesn't mean that I'm living with. Believing a chelik elikam mamish is fine. It's an emunah. So it's good for a shiur. So he gave it over in a shiur, and everybody liked it. But he was the only one who didn't believe it. You understand? Chelik elikam imal mamish, you have to fill it in the beiner. It needs to be in the bones. I can live with it, breathe it, be in that space. That's a whole different reality. That's why the Alter Rebbe speaks so much about das. There's chachma, there's bin, and then there's das. V'adam yada eschava. Adam yada eschava means intimacy. It has to go into me. Yada, integration. Without integration, It's not with integrity. Integrity, I didn't know. My son told me integrity is from the Lashon integration. Integration isn't, I never knew that. I thought it's two nice words. But he said if it's not integrated, there's no integrity. Because it's not emes. It's a nice vort. It's a vort, it's another vort. You have a chelik al-kamal. What cost me money to say a chelik al-kamal? From the jokes they say about the Soviet Union, the great paradise of communism that some of our parents and grandparents grew up in, and some people know firsthand. So they say there was a teacher. They used to brainwash the classroom after classroom. It was it was an interesting thing how they did it. Very tragic. So there was a classroom, so the teacher turned to one of the boys and said, if you owned Moscow, if you owned everything in Moscow, would you give it away to Mother Russia? And of course to Comrade Stalin, who was the quintessential soul of Russia. So the boy said, of course. And if you owned America, would you give it away? Of course. Yeah. And if you owned 100 million ruble, would you give it away to Mother Russia? What's the question? Of course I would give it away. He says, what about your pants? Will you give away your pants? He said, no, that I won't give away. So he says, why? He says, because that I own. That I own. You understand? That's das. You understand? I have a chelik al-kamal. It costs money to say I have a chelik al-kamal. No point. It's nicer than saying that people are horrible. They have a chelik al-kamal. The moment a person experiences it, then they have bchira. If I don't experience it, if my brain doesn't register it, it's just another shear, then I'm just literally a compulsive person reacting to whatever is happening in order to survive. Think about it practically. If right now I'm giving a shear right now, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm dreaming. If chas v'shalom, right, two lions come in from both sides, that door and that door. But I'm talking about real lions, okay? And they're hungry. They want breakfast. They didn't eat breakfast yet. The shul's cookies are not enough. They want a real breakfast. And Baruch Hashem, there's a bunch of chtiches haruyus l'schabed here. So the lions get themselves ready. They went to the mikveh. They make a bracha. They say l'shem yichud, right? And there's a panic. Everyone is screaming and hollering. And hopefully our friend with the ammunition is here. What's his name? And he comes. And I say, well, one sec, chevra. We're middle of learning. Okay, you know what? We're going to do some breathing exercise. Let's relax. Close your eyes. We'll do meditate. We'll go. Calm your nervous system, right? How many of you, if you're normal, are going to listen to me? If you're normal, you say, you could sit here with your meditation. We're out. At least there's another entrance, you fly out. You say, what happened? What happened to all of you? The answer is, if we're in a closed, safe room, we could breathe, we could meditate, we can relax. At this moment, to relax, you have to be a meshuganer. Your brain says, no, don't meditate now. Because there's not going to be anybody left to meditate. You're going to be meditating in the womb, in the stomach of the lion. And that's not going to be a nice meditation. So go find yourself safety, and then you'll already have to meditate for 10 years to relax from the attack. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm saying it as a mashal. It's a funny mashal, but you want to know something? It's not a mashal. This is how people's lives work. It's just not a physical lion, it's a mental lion. Your wife said something, your husband said something, your child said something, especially your teenager who's struggling said something. Your mother-in-law said something, your brother-in-law said something, your sister-in-law said something, your rabbi, I don't know who said, your partner, your employee, they said something, they sent a text, they sent an email. In your mind, it's a lion that just came in from one window and another window. What does the brain do? It reacts, that's it. It reacts. And how does it react? Either it screams, either it freezes, either it runs, either it attacks, what they call flight, fight, freeze, fawn. Either it surrenders. Every brain does things different. But that's what it is. It's two lions attacking me. Where does bchira happen? Bchira happens when I could say, oh wow, a part of my brain is saying that a lion is attacking. That's it. Now you're done. Because the nefesh elikis knows that a lion is not attacking. A part of my brain is saying that a lion is attacking. I get it. And that's why I'm going crazy. The moment you could notice that, you say, oh wow, but let me ask my neshama, is a lion attacking? No, you're fine, you're good, you're powerful, you're divine. You're invincible. Oh, so I could react differently. So let me react with love, let me react with patience. You typhus? That moment is the hardest moment in the world because that part of the brain will not let go easily. That's called the Nefesh HaBahamis. The Nefesh HaBahamis it's just needs to protect you. And it has a memory, and it's conditioned, and it has very little bchira, and it's just trying to do its best. It's not even a bad guy. Even this guy's monstrous Yetzer Hara actually wasn't a bad guy. It was bad in the sense he made horrible decisions, of course. I don't mean it wasn't bad, but it wasn't bad in the sense the poor kid was trying to protect himself from age 4 years old. The moment you have that, you can even have rachmanis on your Yetzer Hara, like, wow, I'm so sorry. This is what had to become of you, such a addicted shmat and nebach. You can have rachmanis. You know what happens when you have rachmanis on the Yetzer Hara? It says, wow, I can have rachmanis on myself too. And he could let go. And that's where you begin to transform things. People are afraid that if they know what's really happening, you're oiker, the basis of religion. You're not oiker. That's where Yiddishkeit becomes alive. That's where you can have real Yiras Shamayim. Yiras Shamayim is a healthy thing. It's the healthiest thing. Yiras Shamayim means you're afraid to destroy what's supposed to be a beautiful life. It's the other way around. If I live in Paro's mind, then I'm extremely limited. So let's see right. This is what he continues in the Maimer. We now go to the next step in Lamata Dein Tachlis, which is the person who does deviate. Who's different than Klippa. Klippa sticks to the system. He doesn't stick to the system. He creates havoc. He deviates from Ratzon Abayda. What does Ratzon Abayda mean? Ratzon Abayda essentially means the cosmic design, the cosmic plan. When we hear Ratzon Abayda, Herr Isaac, it doesn't mean the will of Hashem. Like I said, I don't care what you want. Ratzon Abayda means, like I said last week, what's Avodas Hashem, yeah? You remember what's Avodas Hashem? Alignment, right? Alignment. So Ratzon Abayda means the plan of the programmer. There's living in tune with the rhythm of life. I was once in a choir. A lot of memories are coming up today. But I was once in a choir. Eli Lipsker's choir. I don't know if anybody remembers. Eli Lipsker had a choir. Olav Shalom. So it was very exciting. We sang with Joe Amar and Mordechai Ben David, and Avraham Fried was just starting off then. It was exciting for kids, to sing in these concerts, some other Jewish singers. So I remember it was once a big concert, and I was in the choir, and near me there was a boy, a classmate of mine actually, and the conductor began the song, and he started a different tune. So you had this whole choir, and the conductor couldn't say anything because it was in front of everybody. But I could see his face. The poor guy I thought it was funny, but I wasn't responsible. I was just a kid in the choir. Right? It was very obvious what was wrong. He was just singing another song. He was singing another song, but he was destroying the whole system. That's Pshat. Ratzon Abayda means there's a symphony. And either I could be in tuned, I could sing my song, I could play my notes, or I can deviate from that. And what happens? I detach myself from myself, because I'm also part of that. I can't really detach myself, but in my own mind, I detach myself. That Klippa never does. So this is, in a way, more Lamata even than Klippa. I don't remember what happened at the end. But I remember the moment, and I remember the face of the guy who was in charge, how horrified he was. I understood. He says, this is what he says in the Maimah. The Pasuk says in Tehillim, Kuf Lamed Tes, famous Pasuk. David HaMelech says, that's the Nekuda now. Im Esak Shamayim Shamata Vatzia Sha'ili Neka. David HaMelech says, if I go up to the heavens, you're there. Vatzia Sha'il, even if I lie down. Atzia from the word matzah is a mattress. Sha'il is in the abyss. Sha'il is lamata mata, the abyss, the Gehenim. He neka, you're there. At bistu. What's pshat? Shadei. So he teaches, why does he bring this pasuk in the Maimer Basi Legani? It's all with a diuk. It's Shadei inyan ha'sha'il wa oynish la'ovri ritzayna. The concept of sha'ol is the consequence, is the punishment, to those who deviate from the will, those who transgress the will. That's the concept of sha'ol, Gehan. So he says, Hineka Eirin Seif is there too. In that space too, of sha'ol, which doesn't only represent this world, or even Klippa, Beit Sekinim. This is already sha'ol. This is the next level. This is lamata dein tachlis. Why is there sha'ol? Sha'ol is for the person who actually changes the program. The only one who could, because he has choice or she has choice. So you should know, even there, you would think, okay, kaput, now you're detached. He says, no, hineka. Eirin seif lamata dein tachlis. In that space, there's Eirin Seif. And when we say Eirin Seif is there, that's not saying Einoid Mulvadi, Hashem is everywhere, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. He could be in Gehenna also, he could only be in Gan Eden. He doesn't need air conditioning, he could be in hot places too. Hineka means in the space itself, mitzat the space. In other words, you could find the Eirin Seif there too. Not just because he's infinite, like we learned before. It's mitzat the gedder of the inyan itself. Yeah.
So if we're all chelik mamash, so why there is a Gehenna? So what should that neshama is so pure? Why should go to Gehenna? What's the concept of Gehenna? If we're so pure, we'll lose our body, we'll lose our yisraelis when we transform to the next world.
Excellent question. Why is there b'chlal sha'ol of the soul is so pure? So we'll get to that in a moment, mamish, in a few minutes. He discusses it. To explain this more, the Mitzrayim Rebbe, the son of the Balatanya, is a sefer called Imrei Bin, a section of tzitzis, Shara tzitzis. He says that the David HaMelech puts them together. It's not stam, I go there and I see you and I go here. He puts it together in one pasuk. In the Lashon Halacha, it's called a hekesh, like v'yotza v'hoisa, makish aviyah liyitziyah, right? How do we know that you could be mekadesh b'shtar? So the Gemara says in Kiddushin, daf tes, because in the same pasuk it says v'yotza v'hoisa. So makish aviyah liyitziyah, ma yitziyah b'shtar, of aviyah b'shtar. It's called hekesh. Juxtaposed, when two things are in one pasuk, so the Mitzrayim Rebbe says that's pshat. Not in heaven you're there, and no, it's the same thing. Makish aviyah liyitziyah. It hurt. Reb Tzaddik says, what's Prat Makish Haviyah Litziyah? This word. There's a time when you're Haviyah, when you're married. Then the time you're divorced. You're separated. Makish Haviyah Litziyah, so there's Al-Bazach. What's Prat is Al-Bazach? It's not there's Al-Bazach. Here you're in Shamayim, and you're in Sha'ol. So this is the Chiddush. That Eirin Seif Lamata Dein Tachlis, the same, just like Im Esek Shamayim Shamata. So the same Ata, the way he's in Shamayim, is Atziyah Sha'olinak. But says the same ata. That's the chiddush of Eirin Seif Lamata Dein Tachlis. It's not that when it comes down to a certain place, so either he says Atkan, sorry, I can't go here. You're too dirty. Or I'll go there, but I won't remain me. Maybe Hashem goes into Gullus with you and he becomes part of the problem. So one of the two. Either I stay away because I'm too pure, or I'll become dirty. So both. Just like the same Ata, the same Ein Seif, that's L'mayla Adin Ketz, the Ein Seif is L'mata Adin Tachlis. In other words, in the Sha'ol is Hineka, just like in Shamayim. Even though in the Tzir, this is Sha'ol, this is not Ein Seif. But that's the Chiddush of Ein Seif L'mata Adin Tachlis. There's no Mitziyas, there's no Hechitibtza of real separation and real detachment. He explains at length the Mitzrayim Rebbe, the pasuk says in Kayhela, Zelu umazeh asa Elokim. Hashem created everything Zelu umazeh, which means every force in holiness has a counter force in not holiness. So we tie Zelu umazeh asa Elokim. Hashem made Zelu umazeh. Everything has competition. He teaches Zelu umazeh asa Elokim. It's the same asa Elokim. The same asa Elokim of Zeh is the same asa Elokim of Lumazeh. It's not two separate asa Elokims. It's the same asa Elokim. V'lochein kashem shebetachlis ili d'kedusha shezo inyan karneim beruchnis yeshna inyan Shaydus hazaka de lamayla k'meshakasav v'atik yemin yasiv levushik islag chivir usadei shekamar noka. Shazoi showing in atalas v'chutei atzitzis shazamayid al goydel v'ilu yair shalomayla shazoi emekre shemitzad oitzim malos saying bekoich lekabli al dei tzimtzumim shazoi atzimtzum shaydei afsek hagul goydel shalachir is a nasis smichas asaides hini k'moi can gam below mazah shebesayde achidon v'hainu shebemokim sham shachas alakusi betzimtzum hini kasher yashnoi tzimtzum noisef showing in asaides as a yashachizu tvisavi nikelulu mazah. There's a concept. It's a very fundamental concept. The Kabbalah known as Sidus here. It says in Daniel, he describes Hashem, Va'atik Yoim, the ancient one, sits. His garment is like white snow, slag chiver in Aramaic, and the hair of his head is like white wool. So in Kabbalah it says that Levushe kislag chiver is the talus. It's like white snow. And the Sa'aresha Kamar Naka, the hair of his head is like white wool. That's the tzitzis, which Vayikacheni, but tzitzis roichi, it's like the hair of the head. What's the idea? Sidus here, it's the only part of the body, or one of the like nails, very part of it, it's alive, it grows, but it has no nerves. So therefore when you cut it, there's no pain. In a more spiritual language, it gets chiyus from the soul. But the chayus is so mitzumtzum, it's so restricted, it's so condensed, that it's not like chas v'shalom when you cut off another part of the body with this horrible pain. Because it's there, it's part of the body, it grows from the body. It grows from the brain, everything comes from the brain. But it's called behefsik al gulgoylus. There's a separation of the skull, which represents that there's an absolute barrier between the brain and the hair. So the minute level of energy that comes into the hair is much, much more condensed. And because it's much more condensed, so therefore it's a chayis muat ma'it. In Kedusha, what does that mean? That sometimes the highest levels of godliness, the way they come out is through Cyrus. Sa'aresha kamar naka. Because the energy is so intense, it needs to be condensed into the hollow hair, which comes from the follicle, which comes from the source of the hair, and that channels a very minute form of energy. That's the power of hair. The same is true in Klippa, that sometimes when the Klippa goes through here, so now the energy becomes even more restricted, than it was originally. So now it's a very, very, very tiny level of energy. So now ungodliness can get a lot of nurture because the gilui, the revelation, is so small. So he says, "V'zeu shematzinu sheseyer be'isha erva, mashenken ben nazik siv kadosh yeh gadol peres saresha. V'hainu lefi shesaydes the nazirim mebchinas saydes the kedusha. Mashenken kasher asaydes ha'makom shesh tzimtzumim v'dinim az ha'nimshich mem yenikel lu'umazeh shezeu oimek tachas sha'oil." What's the yachas? What's the relationship of Yiddishkeit to here? It's a paradox. When it comes to a nazir, let your hair grow. You're not allowed to cut your hair. Why? So the Torah says, "Fakert kadosh yeh gadol peres sareish in Parshas Nosai." The hair represents his holiness. A nazir who's separated, he's aloof, he's more holy. So he's not allowed to become tummy, he's not allowed to drink wine, and he's not allowed to touch his hair. The hair is full of kedusha. Like you have by Shimshon, when he cut his hair, he lost his power, and Shmuel Hanavi was a nazir, Avshalom was a nazir. Gemara explains in Nazir, all these Nazirim, you're not allowed to touch your hair. If you become a Nazir today, you're not allowed to cut your hair. The Rakachava had very long hair. Some people say it had a shaykhis to Naziris. I'm not sure. There's a whole debate about it. The Rakachava, you see the pictures. Yeah. So over there, hair is holy. We speak about payas. Payas are holy. A beard, it says in Zohar, Yud Gimel Tikunei Dikna, represents Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, Kedusha. And yet, sometimes you say with hair, you have to be careful with hair. Seir be'isha, married woman, the Gemara says, Seir be'isha ervim, Meseches Brachas. Cover the hair. Why? The Nazir doesn't have to cover the hair. So what is it with hair? The answer is, hair is a very, very interesting type of creation. Hair represents that whatever the chiyus comes through a lot of tzimtzum. It comes in a very, very restricted fashion. So if you're dealing with a very, very lofty level of kedusha, so then when it comes through the sidus, when it comes through the hair, it's restricted. What's being restricted? What's being restricted is a very, very infinite, lofty level. So therefore, afterwards it remains holy, even though it's a more restricted form of holiness. So that's like the nazir. But sometimes what happens is the hair could so restrict the energy that now, if it's exposed, it could be a yenika l'chitzayim. It could be misused in a non-productive way. In simple English, it would mean, right, that sometimes the hair, it has, a woman's hair, especially after marriage, has very intense energy. That's the mitzias. What's called sensual energy. And such type of energy always needs to be protected. Why does it have to be protected? Not because it's bad, but because it can be misused. That's called, it could be a yenika l'chitzayim, there could be a yenika l'lumaza. Who's someone who's not in a perfect refined state can use it can use it in an inappropriate way. So you have to know what type of energy is being brought, is coming through the Cyrus. So there are Sidus here by a Nazir. The Sidus themselves are Kedusha. Why the Sidus themselves Kedusha? Because it's a high level of Ruchnius that's being mitzumtzim through the Sidus. Huh? Why not? Interesting. That's an interesting question. That's how we know. Say b'yisha by a soita it says ufaras right isha, right? And that's something it's not a geschmacka thing. So the Gemara says mikan should say b'yisha. So from here we see that usually it's an inyan of erva. What's an inyan of erva? An inyan of erva is something that has to be protected because there's intense energy, a lot of energy here, but it's energy that can be misconstrued and misinterpreted. In other words, people can use the woman's hair in a way that undermines her own dignity. She must protect it, and she is the one who needs to master her own hair. She decides in the right place with the right person this energy to open it up, to free it up, whether it's in front of a husband, etc., in front of herself. In other words, it's not something, if it's something that's hefker, it can also be misused. Why? Because you have to recognize energy. You have to recognize there's an intense energy. But what type of energy is it? It's an energy, feminine energy, which comes down. It's very, very real in the world. And when it comes through Sidus, it needs to be protected. The Nazir, it's a different type of energy that comes through the hair. So b'meila, what do we see from here? So the concept of Cyrus is it's not in the shaitel. People say this answer would do shaitel could be nicer. It's not negay if it's nicer or not. The union of a shaitel is not a win that a woman that Yiddishkeit believes a woman has to be ugly. It's not chas v'shalom. So shaitel is nice. Some of the shaitels are nicer than the hair. That's not the vart. The vart is a natural hair that flows from the body, has a certain intensity.
It has to flow from that.
Yeah.
While it's cut off, it's
Right. Yeah. It's a different energy. It's a different inyan.
And that energy goes out into the world, and the klipas or anything, gravity.
Yeah. In other words, a woman needs to know that your dignity needs boundaries. And it's true with every person in their own way. Every person, your dignity needs boundaries. In other words, you have to own the energy that's coming out of you because it can be used in different ways. People's energies can be used in different ways, sometimes in very nice ways and sometimes in difficult ways. It's really it's a form of self-respect and dignity. And that's why it's a married woman, because certain parts of a married person come out, so the hair already has a whole different type of energy versus a person who's not married yet. A beard, it's a whole different avoid. The payas, it's a whole different type of sidus. People sometimes think, I get sometimes questions, women, why should I cover the hair? Why should I cover my hair? Because I have beautiful, why should I cover my hair? It's not like a punishment. It's exact opposite. It's a form of respect. Remember, there's a Yid, Rabbi Yitzchak David Grossman. You know Rabbi Yitzchak David Grossman is the Rav of Migdal HaEmek. He's a very, very special person. He has a lot of mozdus in Eretz Yisrael. Migdal Ohr. He has big centers in Migdal HaEmek of education, especially youth. So when the Russian Jews came out in 1990, so he opened up a whole center for Russian children to educate them and help them. So he made a choir of Russian kids to go around there, it's Yisrael and the world to sing. I guess it was a way of inspiring people and fundraising for his Moses, whatever it was a chor, it was a choir. So I remember those years, of 1990 or 91, he came to New York, so he went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he went for dollars, and so he was telling the Rebbe about the choir that he made. The Rebbe was very happy, and he said that he's having a challenge because some people are pressuring him to put Russian girls also in the choir. So the Rebbe said to him something, as I push it. He said, Medavze mazbe zayin. Medavze mazbe. The Gemara over there says, Seir b'yisherva and Kol b'yisherva. Yeah. It says, Medavze mazbe zayin. As the Kol von Aisha is verbunden mit der Schenkeit. Und das Turner sein Hefker. I don't remember the lashon, but something like that. In other words, the sound of the girl, the voice, the koil, is a reflection of her beauty, of her glory. She has to own it. When I sing in public, anyone who's in the room is taking from it. It's not hefker. It's not hefker. What does it mean? It's not hefker. Hefker means it can't be owned by everybody. You have to own it. In the right place, if you sing, adarabah. But in the wrong context, it's compromising the dignity of the girl herself. So what's the maskana here? So we're talking all about vatsia sha'ili neka. So he says, just like in Kedusha, you have the concept of Cyrus, which means the energy comes b'tzimtzum. So the energy of Kedusha comes out in a more restricted fashion. Klippa also works that way. When you have an energy from a different world, when it comes out in Cyrus, it's a more restricted form of energy, meaning the divinity is felt less, so it can be used in different ways. And that's really the whole concept of tznius. Really, the whole concept of tznius is protecting the godliness of it. Because when you expose certain things, what happens? It's not that the godliness is not there, but it's not so manifested, and therefore all types of klippas can take from it. It's a very edel inyan. You could start taking stuff from it. Why? Because the godliness is not so revealed, it's more restricted. So you have to protect it, because it can be misused. When alakus is begalui, it can't be misused. When it's not begalui, other forces can take over. So just like in Kedusha it works that way, in Klippos it works that way. But the Nekuda is that it's the same system. That even if it's coming out through here, so it's coming out in a condensed fashion, and there's klippa that can nurture from it, but it's still what? It's Eirein Seif. The Eirein Seif is hidden there, it's present there. So he finishes, he says, Achal zen nemar vatsia sha'oil hineko. Ukefi sha'amar yoyne mi beten sha'oil shivati. Hainu shagam mi toicha sha'oil makir der herter elikus. The herter elikus from the sha'oil. It says by Yoina, he was swallowed up by the fish, right? When he was sent to the prophesize, and he didn't want to, when he ran away, and they threw him out of the boat, the ship, and he was swallowed up by the dog, by the whale. And it says inside the womb, in the stomach of the dog, he started to daven, and he said, "Mi beten sha'oil shivati." From the stomach, from the womb of sha'oil, from the belly of the abyss, I cry out. So the Rebbe teaches, what's the pshat? Fun sha'oil in sha'oil te dehert elikus. That's the chiddush. Atziyah sha'oil ineka mi beten sha'oil, in the belly of the sha'oil. It's not just in the sha'oil I davened. From the sha'oil he found Eirein Sof. That's the chiddush of Lamad Natan. It's not Hashem is also in the sha'oil. The sha'oil itself brings you to God. That's the chiddush of Lamad Natan Tachlis. And sometimes we see that in people's lives. Yeah. So it's not they hit rock bottom, so now there's nowhere to go. It's much more than that. Yeah. In the rock bottom itself, you encounter the Eirein Seif. Sometimes I couldn't encounter it anywhere else. It's over there that you vatzia sha'oil, and suddenly he neka. That's where I learned about it. In this darkness, you learn about. How could you learn about it there? You have to first go away. The answer is because it's present. It's just very concealed. So sometimes the only way I can find the Eirein Seif is there. So you'll say, why only there? It's also with the Lamaila. So he says, Yiseidim is that Kameshakos of Moedit Sha'el Vayal. The pasuk says, Shmuel Aleph Beis, Chana says, he brings you down to the Sha'il, Vayal, and he picks you up. So normally you learn it's two separate things. He says, no. It means, the reason you're made at Sha'il is in order to go up. Because some souls need to find the Ein Sof in the Sha'il. The Aliyah is always commensurate with the Yerida. In other words, we're saying those souls that need to find the deepest place of Ein Sof need to go down all the way to the Sha'il because, to find it, because the Aliyah from the Moed Sha'il is Vayal, it's all the way up. Because the Aliyah is always commensurate with the Yerida. In other words, when you find the Ein Sof Lamata Adin Tachlis, you find the Ein Sof, the infinity. You would never find that in heaven. In heaven, you find heaven. In Sha'il, you find infinity. So the Aliyah is much greater. That's why you have to go to Sha'il. That's the answer to your question. He's going to explain. From the fact that there is this punishment, this consequence of Moed Shel, you can understand the Aliyah. Why? Shara you do what's known. Sha'in she'atayda enim l'shem oynish ba'al mechas v'shalom. She'atayda toydas chesed. V'im kein gama oynish she'b'toyda winyin shel chesed she'tachlis yu she'tistaken v'yachzel l'mutav. There's no punishment in Torah to punish. We say punish, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm bigger than you. I'm take revenge. There's no such a thing. Torah is called, we say every morning, Torah's chesed. Torah's chesed means a Torah of love and kindness. So every nekuda of Torah is pure love. You start learning Masechta Sanhedrin, Masechta Makkos, you'll see Segans Lebedik over there with punishments. So what happened to the chesed and the love? Love, until you start learning Gemara. So he says you have to understand what it is. There's no such a metzias of punishing for the sake of punishing. You didn't listen to me? I'm bigger than you. I'm going to take revenge. I'm angry. Even the oynish shabbatayda is always an inyan of love. Shetachlisayu sheyistaken v'yachzel l'mutav. V'ad kedei kach hu ha'ilu shebishvil zeh kedai afilu ha'inyan demoidet sha'il shezel lamata yosem inyan ha'klipa. And so much is their love, I'm ready to risk that you should go to Sha'il because I know this is the only way for real healing. So,
it's an opportunity to do something.
So you have Sha'il in
give you opportunity to do Yeridu Tzarech Aliyah.
Yeah, so you can have Sha'il in this world, like by Yoina.
His question is why is Sha'il in the world to come? That's his question.
Oh, so now if a person didn't have it in this world, right? So it's kedai to go through such a Yerida, not chas v'shalom for torture, because of the Aliyah. So to rob a person from Sha'il, to rob a soul from Sha'il in the next world is robbing them from the ability of the soul to be able to be what it's supposed to be. Like the Gemara says, Kamay ben Azal, the Gemara says in Chagig about Acher, Elisha ben Avoya, Mutav de l'daini v'leisel al medasi. Better he should go through what he has to go through, he should be able to experience the purity of his soul in Elam Haba. V'kivon shezeh din kasha b'yoser, harei muvan mailas hatainug v'atoiva shemagi aleh. If it's such a din, there was smoke coming out of his grave, whatever that represented spiritually. So you want to torture Elisha ben Avoya? It means fakert. It means that the bliss he's going to experience is so powerful that the Moed Sha'il is worth it in order to give him this bliss. In other words, it's all a form of chesed. Umikol zeh muvon shafilu lamata mata beyoser ad lodem hapeisheya upeisheya betachlis shebekoyach haTorah emer dvar halacha shu hepech haTorah. Haynu shaydei inyoni kedusha gufa meisifim koyach beluma hinigam sham yeshni amshachas en sof shenun shechamata adin tachlis. So here you have the illustration that even in the lowest place, the Adam HaPeisheya, Peisheya means the sinner and the ultimate sinner. And not only that he deviates, but like he said before, in sin itself, you could sin with something in the world. This guy takes Torah, and with the koyach of Torah, he says a halacha that's hepech haTorah. In other words, he uses kedusha for klippa, like Elisha ben Avoya. So don't think that you're detached, even in that thing that's lower than klippa is also Ein Sof Lamata Adin Tachlis. In the Sha'il is Lamata Adin Tachlis. It says by Koirach, v'yerdu chayim sha'ila. By Koirach, v'yerdu chayim sha'ila. Yeah, this is the connection. It says by Koirach that Koirach was jealous of Aaron because Aaron, the Leviim, had to shave in the Midbar, right? Because they're Gvura. So from there here, there could be negativity. Aaron was Chesed, so Aaron says, Kashemen atoiv yored al skan Aaron sheyored al pimidoisav. So Korach got jealous from Aaron because Aaron had a long beard. So Korach got jealous. It says in Medrash. And then he said to Moshe, Talis shekulat chelis, chayev is betzitzis, or not? If you have a talis that's all chelis, does it still need tzitzis? So Moshe said, yeah. So he said, that's ridiculous. If you have one strand of tchelis, it's good. Then a whole talis of tchelis, you don't need tzitzis. So what was the machlaikas? The machlaikas was about Cyrus. It was about Cyrus. Korach wasn't Goyrus, the union of Cyrus. He didn't feel you need Cyrus. What happens with Korach? He didn't understand that there could be a tzimtzum, such a tzimtzum, that you have to be careful. That's why he couldn't have Cyrus. And that's why the tzitzis has to have Cyrus. So what happens? V'yerdu chayim sha'ila. He goes down into the sha'il. And what does it say by Korach and his children? That Mokim nisbatzel lehem begehenim, right? For asu tshuva. The Gemara says they're screaming Moshemes v'terasayemes. All the mizmayrim, all the tehillim of Levnei Korach and tehillim was Mokim nisbatzel lehem begehenim in the sha'il. By Yoina Osam, he bet in sha'il shivati. We're in the fish. It says in Zohar that Yoina represents the soul, and the boat is the body, because when you come into the ocean, the soul can't survive. So the soul needs the body, and then you get swallowed up in the fish. The Gemara says that Dogim represents Gili Arayas, because they multiply excessively. Dogim multiply more than everybody else. Yosef said, V'yidgul arayv b'kerev aretz. Dag also comes the word daiging, anxiety. So a person sometimes falls into this world, and you go down into the sha'il, either of addiction, Gili Arayas, dag, or daiging, anxiety. Two forms of being swallowed up, and the person falls into the sha'il. So what's the chiddush? Im esek shemayim shamata v'atziyah sha'ili neka. There's never a metzius you say, I'm in the sha'il, and therefore God gave up on me, I'm a lost case. There's no such a metzius. Oirein sof lamata adein tachlis, it's in the matzav of the sha'il itself. You say, no. No, I have to leave it. Once I do tshuva and I find the source, maybe he'll take me back. That's one level, but there's a deeper level. And that is that the Oirein Sof is in this place itself, even though it's terribly concealed, like through here. But because of that, mi betin sha'il, in the sha'il, the her telekus, because Oirein Sof never left. Not only it never left, it's in that space, even though it's completely concealed. Huh? So now why does it even happen? This Yerid itself is because Lamata Adein Tachlis, the Sha'il brings the person to a place that he couldn't have gone before. Now you'll say, but it's all chesed. That's the vart. Because the neshama is so pure, so divine, when the neshama gets connected or filth attaches itself to it, so the poor neshama now can't be who it's supposed to be. It can't experience the full bliss of what it is. Why? Because it has all these things attached to it. So the neshama goes on a journey, moidet sha'il, but it's all vayal. There's no such a thing, a punishment for the sake of a punishment. It's always for tikkun, it's always for chesed. Fakert, if the sha'il is so deep, it means that you're getting rid of such dirt and such filth that the bliss is going to be completely shalai berach. So it may look scary, but really what it is, it's allowing the person to reach a tainug, such a deep tainug that without this they couldn't reach it. So you can only imagine how powerful the tainug is, how powerful the goodness is, that if a person has to go through this ringer in order to be able to experience it, it must be such a toiv, the Yidid is Tzarech Aliyah. So this brings out the Lamata Adein Tachlis, even below Klippa, even the person who deviates, and that's why there's Sha'il. What's Sha'il? Sha'il is the Einish for the Oiver Itzayner, like Gehenim. So we say Mi betin Sha'il Shivati in the Sha'il itself. It's not that you're disconnected. No, you're connected. You just didn't know you were connected. But the Oirein Sof was always there, even in that space. And all the love is there, and all the connection is there, and all the oneness is there, and all the healing is there. Because the whole Sha'il itself is only a Yidid Tzarech Aliyah. So there's never a Nekuda where Oirein Sof is Lamata Adein Tachlis, that you're so low that we're done. Either I'm detached from you, or I become tamei, and I'm not really there. Ein Sof is not there. No, you say, mi beten shol shivati, Yoina says. In that place, from the belly of the abyss, I cry out to you. What does he say? Deherta lekus. Lashon Yiddish, what does he say? Fun the shoil, deherta lekus. Mitoich ha-shoil. How could you deher lekus from the shoil? Because Ein Sof is lamata adein tachlis. I fell so low. You fell so low. But the Ein Sof is there. And again, when we mean there, it doesn't mean it's there in its own infinite space. It's there means it's there in the shoil. But tzimtzum, that's why he brings out the asidus. The asidus means it could be completely condensed, but the Ein Sof is there. So in a person's life, in a very practical way, what does this mean? It means sometimes you find yourself in the shoil. Sometimes. There's a word from Rabbi Aaron Halevi Mistrashela. He was a Talmud of the Alter Rebbe. I think he says it in one of his Maimonim that Sha'ol is the same words, same letters like Sha'ol. Sha'ol. What does Sha'ol mean? Borrowed, right? Sha'ol. Mehashem she'iltiv. A Sha'ol is a borrower. So he says a hafla de kavart. What does it mean to be in the Sha'ol? That you live a borrowed life. That's sha'il. The first form of sha'il is you're a sha'il. You're living a borrowed life. I'm not living my life. I'm living your life. I borrow your life. Why do I borrow your life? God gave me my life. The answer is I think my life is too sick and too horrible. So I'm busy borrowing somebody else's life. But that means something very deep. It means very often I'm living on a daily basis, but I'm not living me. I'm living you. I'm living you. I'm living you. In other words, I'm constantly being macabre. I'm like a parasite. You know, like we spoke about lice, right? I live off you, and I live off you, and I live off you, and I'm looking for the next one I can borrow from. Why? There's no me, there's no tzir adam. Huh? Kinim, yeah, kinim. I substitute my name with a kinui, with another name. I borrow your name to become my name. That's the concept. And it expresses itself in so many different ways. Ending up literally in the Gehenna, what does it mean? Back to that story that I told before. What was his problem? He was borrowing his father's life. He thought he has his father's problems. You understand? This younger man thought he had his father's problems. His father never healed, so he thought he has his problem. What was his healing? His healing was not to say that I'm a Rasha Merusha and I have to go torture myself. His healing was, I'm not my father. I'm actually a great guy. I told him your healing is that you have to realize that you're a good person. That's who you are. Wow. He's not in Shail anymore. I'm not talking intellectually now, I'm talking viscerally. A Yid once told me, he's had a lot of psychological challenges, an El to the Yid. So he told me once, it's interesting, he told me the one that he was once by the Rebbe in the 1950s as a bacher. So he started to say about his problems. So the Rebbe says, Das hast du genommen von deinen Taten, so hat nichts zu tun mit dir. This is your father, it doesn't have to do with you. The Rebbe knew his father very well. Interesting what he told him. Why you say that to a boy? Because it's important to understand. You're carrying something, let it go. Let it go. Right? It could be your mother, it could be your father, it could be, I don't know, it could be an El Delta Zayd, it could be somebody else. But the point is, you have to let it go. It's very easy. It's very easy. It looks like you have a perfect life. So let me borrow your name, borrow your bank account if I could, borrow your family, borrow. But the main thing is, I'm in a sha'il. I'm in the abyss. And the reason is, whenever you borrow somebody else's life, by definition, you're in sha'il. Why? Because it means I'm not in my life. I'm just in a sha'il. And then it gets lower and lower and lower. But the point is, I'm borrowing somebody else's clip or somebody else's ra. So in that space, a person finds themselves in sha'il, whatever that means physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. So what's my relationship at this moment? So the last thing that should happen is, you should say, it's over. I'm done. At this point, God really hates me. Life is over. But there's so much pain. So Yoina says, Mi betin sha'il, shivati. Now the avodah is find the Ein Sof lamata adin tachlis in the sha'il. What does it mean to find it in the sha'il? To know that in this place, the only reason ultimately I was allowed to end up here is in order to come out in a much more powerful way. To pick up the sha'il by discovering the Ein Sof in this place, lamata adin tachlis. Even though it's concealed and condensed, and I made wrong decisions, and that's why I'm in the sha'il. But it's never a moment where the Ein Sof says, At kan. There's no such a thing. Everybody's typhus, the Indian. So that's why, V'yerdu chayim sha'ila. They were in sha'il, but they were chayim. Moirid sha'il, vayal. Because Moirid sha'il, therefore the vayal is a much bigger aliyah, because if not, you wouldn't take him to the sha'il. Why take a neshama to the sha'il? You'd never take a neshama to the sha'il unless it's for vayal. If it's not for an aliyah, we don't do that. We're not here ever to punish for the sake of punishment. Never. There's no such a thing.
So borrowing money is probably one of the examples of Gehenna.
Eved loive leish malva.
You borrow temporary and you return forever.
So you have sha'il in the next world, right? Because in the next world the neshama has to go through whatever it goes through. But Gehenna is not a concept people think you're going to get destroyed, they're going to torture you. Chas v'shalom. It's a process of letting the neshama free up. It's the filth that attached itself to it, and it's intrinsic. It's necessary. Why? All for the tainug of the neshama. It would be horrible if you just tell the neshama, you know what? You stay filthy forever, stay stuck forever. It's like a bird, an eagle that's destined to soar to the heavens, and you put it in the abyss, and you clip its wings, and you say, this is where you stay forever. That's what it would look like without sha'il. Sha'il is the process in which you can get rid of the mud from the wings, and you could soar. It would be so much more cruel and painful to tell the person, no. You stay dirty and filthy forever. The Gemara has a lashon in Rosh Hashanah. Gehenim kala v'heim einam kalin. On certain Rishayim. The Gehenim will end, they won't end. So literally it means what? They're so bad that the Gehenim fires will burn out and still they're around. Now they need so much. You remember we learned it. Gehenim kala, they're so bad that all the Gehenim is going to finish already. It's like the Gehenim already closed down, but they still need more. I think Daf Yud Zayin or Yud Ches. The sugi of Gehenim over there. Gehenim kalmanul. I think the Tzaddik HaKayim Lublin writes, I saw it once in one of the Chassidic Sfarim. He says, Punkt Farket, what it's saying is, Gehenim kala v'heim einam kalin. The Gehenim ultimately is going to finish. That's not the Tachlis. V'heim einam kalin. They're never going to finish, because the Tachlis is ultimately to heal them. So Gehenim kala, the Gehenim you're going to get through. V'heim einam kalin. They're not going to end with this. They're not going to get destroyed. The Gehenim is destined to be destroyed because it's just there to help them. V'heim einam kalin. That's how he teaches it.
Gehenna should be called, not Gehenna, should be called liberation camp.
Gay he noim.
Should be called liberation camp. So that's going to be liberated, from all the bad.
The nekuda is that a person needs to understand what the vart is. The name is not so negeya. The negeya is the teichen v'havana.
The name is the essence. The name is the essence. Something about the soil.
There's never a nekuda in a person's life that Ein Sof is not there. I made a million mistakes, and I'm in the dumps. Physically, spiritually, whatever it is, I'm mamish in the dumps. The Ein Sof is present, and the Ein Sof is in the darkness. So Vatzia Sha'il is Hineka. But I need to be able to open myself up to that truth. I need to be able to open myself up to that reality. And when I open myself up to that reality, I could say, Hineka. Da bist du. Okay, Beis Hashem, I want to finish the Maimer before the end of the week, so we'll have a shir Wednesday morning also. Same time. Tomorrow is a shir for women at 9:30 here. You could tell your wives and daughters. But Wednesday morning, B'li Neder, 8 o'clock, we'll have a shir here. Everybody have a beautiful and wonderful day. Let's try to stay out of the sha'oil as much as possible. Dainamen.
That's the same question on the Ra. It's not bad, some Ra.
No.
It's how we view it.
How we view it, exactly.
That's how we view it. That's not weird.
No, it's
Verstanden? I'll go.
It's so good. It's so good.
Ich will noch sagen darum. Ich wohne in Azizon. Ich habe auch jede Woche auf Spotify.
Ah.
Ich bereite Goa Sachen in Azizon. Ich habe auch jede Mittwoch in der Früh das Schir von dem Sachen. Choice. Jeden Woche.
Wie heißt der?
Rosenblatt.
Wo wohnt der? Nein, das ist...
Ja, Zeffer. Bei dem Benag.
Ah?
Stadt von dem Benag.
Heint ist schon nicht.
Ja, setzt doch. Ich habe gesetzt im Balancieren. Ich kann nicht sein Knebel bei der nächtige Wende in den Tormeits. Ja, die ganze Sache. Ich will sehen, die ganze macht nur mal kommen. Ich komme rein dort. 700 Wochen im Sitzen lernen. Ich frage sie, was sie da sagen. Das ist doch das ist ein different color, dass sie die ganze Zeit sitzen lernen. Ich stand dort nach sein, machen eine ganz Bodebass, auf Indische gestanden, ganz Bodebass.
Okay, ich break meine Chamme, weil man schickt dort ein Video, so ist ein ganzer...
Ja, Communication. Sie gewähren eine Sache,
Ah ja?
ja, aber sie gestanden in der Seite. Ich habe es gelernt, ich habe gemacht viele Pictures.
Okay. Darf der mir verreißen, seine Elemente zu
Ja,
sagen?
das sage ich. Das ist 8000 Wochen, sitzen da und jeder weiß nicht.
Ihr seid das Land von daheim, seid ihr von einer chassidischen Familie?
In Adressen.
Der Tate euch?
Right.
Wir sind gerade kein jeden.
Ihr hält sich einer Flasche Kaidisch, auf Evrit oder auf Englisch?
Meine Mama ist von Amerika, die kann ich auch nicht verstehen.
Ah, Ihre Mama kommt echt von der Breslau, wenn wir sprechen?
Nee, meine Mama ist von Washington, aber ich
Okay, gewaltig. You got it?
das ist die einzigste Sache, was wir seht. Ihr seht darauf,
okay.
Everybody have a beautiful day. Ah, was sagt ihr?
hunderte Wochen sitzen lernen. Vermacht das jetzt.
Sehr schön.
Ja, und das ist das.
Okay, Baruch Hashem.
Alle kommen mit den Videos.
Nichamtoni.